To counter the negativity from last week's 5 things I hate about reefing video, today I'm going to tell you the 5 things I love the most. And I'm not talking about the most obvious things like brightly coloured fish and corals, it's the more subtle pleasures that you don't first realise but what really make the hobby awesome. And if it's your first time here and you want a new reefing video every week, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out when I upload. First up is how crystal clear the water looks. The first thing I notice when I go into any of my local fish shops is just how sparkling and gin clear the saltwater tanks look. It gives the impression that your fish are floating in thin air, and it reminds me of beachy holidays in the Mediterranean from when I was a kid. And you can magnify the effect by using activated carbon to really polish your water. It's often said that nothing good happens quickly in a reef tank, but putting activated carbon in your tank will have an instant impact and will make it look dramatically better in the space of a couple of hours. Now you might think it's weird to get so much pleasure from the water and not the inhabitants, but there's something really magical about crystal clear water, and it doesn't hurt that it makes your corals and fish look awesome too. Next up is the childish puns. You can go into your local fish shop and ask for a good pump, or when your mate sets up a new tank, you can ask him when he's getting it wet. What are you up to this weekend, Dave? You know what, Alex? I think I'm going to clean my pipes. Darling, I've got bad news. I've got crabs. Now combine that with the fact that a weird number of corals look like a penis, and this hobby is a mine of smutty puns, and I love it. Moving on to more serious matters, and number 3 on my list is the never-ending challenge. You first start out on a beginner-friendly fish like clownfish, which are absolutely stunning. Then you quickly move on to quirky inverts like snails, hermit crabs and starfish, before graduating onto your first soft coral. When you've mastered soft corals, you then graduate onto LPS corals, and eventually onto SPS corals. And after 2 years when you've got through all of that, you can then graduate onto more difficult fish, more difficult LPS corals, and more difficult SPS corals. But it doesn't end there, and when you get beyond that, you're into the realm of perfecting the art and making your corals look their absolute best. And the art of perfecting a reef tank like that takes absolutely years, and the longer you're in the hobby, the more you realise you don't know. It's the challenge and the depth of the hobby that makes it so interesting and always keeps you coming back for more. It's impossible to get bored of the hobby as you're always on the journey, which of course is the best part. And that segues into my penultimate pleasure of the hobby, the reward when you get things right. When you start out in the hobby, you can struggle to even keep corals alive. Now that can be incredibly frustrating, but as you grow, learn and develop your talent and skills, you get to see the reward in front of your own eyes. You might have unsightly algae or even dull corals in your tank for months or even years at a time. But when you finally figure out how to deal with that, then implement the changes that leads to your corals looking more healthy and vibrant, the feeling of satisfaction is truly immense. As you progress in the hobby, you'll also learn to spot when things are going wrong, and you'll know what to do to fix them. And even beyond that, when you get to know your tank really well, you'll see the changes in your tank when your nutrients increase, which will tell you that you've got to do something to bring them back down and get your corals looking their best again. And the rewards of your knowledge and input are immediate, as you will be able to see an animal in front of your very own eyes improve in health and coloration, and that gives you a connection to your tank and its inhabitants that is deeply satisfying and rewarding. And the number one thing I love about this hobby is the community. It might be because this is a niche hobby, or maybe it's the kind of people who are attracted to caring for and looking after animals. But whatever the reason, you meet the nicest people through a reef tank. Whether that's chatting to other customers or staff in your local fish shop, buying and selling coral frags from fellow hobbyists, or large-scale events like Aquashello in the States or Coral Freaks in the UK, I guarantee when you meet a fellow reefer, they'll be as passionate as you and will happily chat away with you for hours. In some hobbies, people want to protect their own skills and hoard knowledge, but that's simply not the case in reef keeping, and people are only too happy to share how they've been successful and try to help you be successful in your own journey. So as magical as the fish and corals we keep are, as with everything in life, what makes it so special is the people you meet along the way. Now I'd love to hear what you guys love most about the hobby, so let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for next week. And until next time, happy reefing.